This is Polyamory Weekly, tales from the front of responsible non-monogamy from a pansexual, kink-friendly point of view. A warning for our under-18 listeners. This is an adult-oriented podcast about really lascivious things, like communication and honesty in relationships. If you're under 18 and looking for upfront advice and answers to questions about sex, please visit scarletteen.com.
This is Polyamory Weekly, episode 484 for August 25th, 2016. Coming up on today's show, shifting time to follow priorities. It's coming up on today's show. Hello, everyone. I am your host, Minx, and I am here with my co-host.
My favorite co-host, Lusty Guy. So happy to be here as always, and I'm going to continue with that despite the Donald Trump comparison on the last show.
I'm so lucky that you love me. I am.
Well, I'm lucky that you love me. And you know, it is kind of an asshole thing, but it's a joke, so hey, there you go.
And yes, and you'll do anything for a laugh. It's true.
It's true. Well,
almost anything.
Yeah.
Well, we have an interesting topic today that I'm actually very glad that one listener asked. I think it's something that people are often afraid to ask. But we have some announcements and poly news and things to cover first, so let's dive in.
In we go.
So first up, there was a very interesting article published in Vice about polyamory. And I should say, not just interesting, but also controversial. And Alan, of course, covered it in his Poly in the News blog.
As he always does, and covered it very well, I might add.
The article is entitled, Why People Are Fighting to Get Polyamory Recognized as a Sexual Orientation. Now, what I thought was very interesting about this is that I feel like the author, who is Neil MacArthur, really did a good job of very succinctly covering where we are in terms of the poly movement, if there is such thing as a poly movement, and sort of a little bit of the arguments on both sides. Because he questions the idea of promoting polyamory as a sexual orientation. He does point out that not everyone agrees. Some people like poly because it's not one thing, it's many things. He does point out that when we talk about this, it co-opts some of the language from the LGBTQ community, and that people disagree on this matter. Now, what was really interesting is I posted this article to the Poly Weekly Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap.
And fur flew.
I am not sure that there has been an article that I posted that has been shared this many times. 51 shares. Over 9,000 people reached. I know we've done more than that, but that's definitely in the high numbers for us. And it's interesting because the comments, people are very, still respectful. Yay.
Oh, good.
Good civil discourse. But people were expressing very different opinions on the Facebook page. I'll put a link to that particular post so you can see what everybody said. I mean, some people were saying this is ridiculous. Some people are saying this is not a sexual orientation. It's a relationship orientation. Those two aren't the same thing. Some people are saying, oh, you're calling it one true way. There really was a little bit of fur flying in a polite way, civil way, thank goodness.
Well, it's always nice to politely fling fur.
Yeah. Would you like some tea with your fur, my friend?
I'd like them separate, thank you very much. I don't want them mixed. You know, first of all, I have to say you are so cute when you get your marketing geek on. I love you talking about the numbers and the people reached and the shares. It just makes me smile. Yeah, having said that, there's a quote in this from Dan Savage saying that polyamory is what you do, not who you are, separating it out from that orientation line. And for me, that actually illustrates what is the root of this issue, which is to say, it illustrates that it's a broken question. For me personally, I certainly experienced polyamory, quote, as an orientation, unquote, in that I never chose to be poly. I simply was poly. That's how I experienced it. But this separation between what you do and what you are is, to my way of thinking, wrong. In fact, what we do is who we are, in my worldview. And I understand that not everybody's going to agree with that, and that's great, and that's fine, and it's okay. But in my opinion, the sum total of our actions is, in fact, who we are. And I I think this whole, is it an orientation, is it a lifestyle, reveals the fact that it's a broken question. A lifestyle is an orientation. The differentiation between those two is an outgrowth of our legal system, I believe, which affords consideration to certain classes of people as opposed to affording consideration to all people, right? Rather than saying legally discrimination is wrong across the board, we say discrimination is wrong when it applies to these classes, one of which is sexual orientation. And I believe that that differentiation between what you do and who you are makes for a broken question. Sexual orientation versus lifestyle, I'm not sure that there's really a versus there.
There definitely is in our society, however, which is why so many people took so many different sides on this issue, because I believe that there is this constant, there's this belief in our society, this given, that if it's something that you are, that you can't control, well then that's kind of okay, and we have to accept that. But if it's something that you do, and it's your personal choice, well then, I can be just as judgmental and discriminatory against you as I want.
And again, I mean, that's kind of illustrating why I think the model is broken.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I understand everybody has a lot of skin in this game, and I am not denying anybody's right to their experience as they experienced it. As I say, for me, I have always experienced polyamory as an orientation in that it's never been a choice. It wasn't like I sat down one day and said, I think I am straight. Nope, that never happened. And I never sat down and said, I think I'm poly. Nope, never happened. It's just simply how I am. But somebody else comes to it a different way, and that's all fine. I actually think that I'm not sure how hard we should argue for how many angels can fit on this pin.
It really is true. Well, I think what it comes down to in our society is, will this be a legally protected class? If it's identified as a sexual orientation, then it's much more likely, now that we've got GLBTQs listed as a protected sexual orientation, or at least the GLs, listed legally as a sexually protected orientation, there would be precedent. If poly fits into that category, now we have much more precedent for also being a protected class, which we now aren't. You can have your kids taken away, you can have poly used against you in a divorce. There's no legal protection for somebody as poly. But that being said, when this question is asked, I feel the same way I do when somebody asks me, are human beings monogamous? Naturally. And I always want to fire back with the question, why do you ask and why do you care?
Yeah, whereas my response is always, it's a broken question. Everything's natural. For us to
it occurs in nature, therefore it's natural.
Right.
So move on. Next question.
Exactly. In either case, again, I don't want to diminish the strength that a lot of people have around this thing, and my own little deconstructive tendencies are just that, my own little deconstructive tendencies. Fascinating topic, lots of ink spilt on it, and Alan, as always, has done a great job wrapping some of it up and putting it in one place where you can start your search.
Right, and what I liked about the original article, too, was that it really did cover these complex issues in a very succinct and clear way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you haven't already read it, I'll provide a link in the show notes at polyweekly.com.
Hi, Minx. I have a question about time commitments. I am new to polyamory, and about a year ago, I started a relationship with a married man, and we started seeing each other 3 times a week. It was a very deep and emotionally supportive relationship. I am single, and like I said, he's married. And recently I had a trust issue come up between us, and I needed to take some space so I could process that. So I asked if we could spend time together once a week instead of 3 times a week. For him, that was so painful to think about only seeing me once a week that he broke up with me. So alongside, processing that and feeling hurt by that, I realized after he broke up with me that I actually want to have a live-in partner. I want to have a nesting partner. And I know that relationship with him wasn't going to go that direction, and that's fine with me. But if we were to work things out, I would still need to spend less time with him so that I could find a partner that meets those needs. So I could find a partner that would like to be primaries, would like to be a live-in partner with me. So I guess my question is it ethical? Is it normal? Is it okay to ask that you reduce your time together with a lover if that relationship isn't meeting your needs so that you can find another relationship that is meeting your needs? I was under the impression that poly relationships could oftentimes be flexible, that you could transform them into something that's different. But in this case it wasn't, so I'm a little bit confused. So that's my question. Is it good, ethical to reduce your time together as your needs change so that you can find a partner that meets those needs? Thanks a lot, and I hope you're having a good day, and I look forward to hearing your response. Bye.
I think this is a question that many people who are new to poly and who have a tendency to think hierarchically as well, I think it's a really fairly common question. Anna, do you want to start? I started on the last one. You should start on this one.
Okay. Look at her taking a step back.
Twist your arm.
Twist my arm. Well, let me start out, first of all, by, trying to show a little compassion. After our last show, Elle heard our show and said to me, in fact, said to us something that translated to, I felt like you could have been a little more compassionate. And I listened to it, and I think she's right. So from a compassionate point of view, let me first of all offer the congratulations and the condolences in whatever proportions are most appropriate for the ending of your relationship. That's the thing to put first on your scales. So first of all, I'm sorry for the pain that you've gone through, and I'm hopeful for your chance to grow and learn from this, both at the same time for the breakup. That's just the top level. So I'm hearing you say, if we get back together, and if I'm looking for another kind of relationship, I won't have as much time to give to this relationship. That stacks up two ifs and two conditionals. Don't borrow trouble, as my grandma used to say. Stick with what you've got right in front of you. Do you want to get back together? Start with that. If you get back together, how much time do you want for this relationship? Get your needs met. If what you really want is to meet with this person 3 days a week, then don't allow an if to get in your way. If I'm doing 3 days a week, I don't have time to find someone else. If you're happy and your best you, and if those 3 days a week are contributing to making you your best, happiest you will have the most energy and resources to find the kind of relationship that you want. So instead of, measuring your current state against the state you want to achieve, measure it against the way you feel right now. And if your needs are being met, yay. And if your needs are not being met, change things so that they are. Don't worry about, think my needs might not be met in the future, so I have to change things now. No. Ask yourself, are my needs being met now? And one thing quick, I heard you say that you thought poly relationships allowed for transformations. You thought, no. Poly relationships are described as poly relationships. Some of them allow for more transformations, some of them don't. Some of them allow for transformations at one point in them, and then later on don't, and then do again, and some of them never change. They're just relationships. And really what you have to do is know that you're going to craft your relationships to work for you at that time. Some of them will be open for transformation, some of them won't. Some of them, when you try to make a transformation, it'll all explode.
It's true. And I would echo that sentiment as well. I had that same thought that poly relationships aren't flexible. They are as flexible as the people within them.
Right.
If you get, flexible, open-minded people that are loving and compassionate and willing to explore expansion of boundaries, sure, a relationship can be super flexible. If you are working with people that have a high level of demands and they know exactly where their boundaries are and that they're not going to change, then the relationship might not end up being as flexible. Unfortunately, like corporations, relationships are made up of people, and they are as good or ethical or flexible as the people that comprise them. I wanted to express, too, that so you asked to meet 1 time a week instead of 3 times a week because of a trust issue, basically saying, I need some space, but I still want to see you. And he breaks up with you. Now, we don't know his side, but I would give you a bit of sympathy because saying, basically saying I want a little space, and the person's like, fine, I'm going to take my toys and go home. That can be a little tough to deal with in a monogamous or a polyamorous situation. So that would miff me quite a bit as well. So understand that is a very difficult situation.
Oh, absolutely.
And I do agree with Lusty Guy in that we're working with theoreticals here, but I do love the way you think because it sounds like you're a planner like me. And you're like, okay, so if I'm going to add this other activity, then what I'm going to have to do is make sure that I reduce my participation in these other activities because I know I can't get more hours in the day. I totally think that way too. I get it. I totally understand. But I do also agree with Lusty Guy that talking theoreticals, yes, at some point, you may end up having to make a decision between spending more time with a new partner that it turns out you're totally into and spending a little bit less time with your current partner. But as Lusty Guy says, there is no need to borrow trouble. You haven't even got back together with your partner yet. You don't know how demanding a new partner might be. You don't know how long it would take to find that type of partner that would give you the type of relationship where you might be able to live in. There are too many unknowns. So I agree with Lusty Guy. Don't cut back right now. What you should focus on is what you need to be happy right now. And if a person comes along to change that, or, a new job or a child or a new hobby, if anything comes along to change that.
A new sex toy,
anything that requires more time and attention, well, then you will all get together as grown-ups. You will negotiate what each person needs in order to remain happy and healthy in the relationship, and you'll figure it out.
Absolutely. Now, to directly answer your question, which is it okay, is it ethical, is it all right to try to change the amount of time that goes into a relationship because you have another relationship that you want to put more time into? The heart of the question is it all right to reduce or, I suppose, increase the amount of time going into a relationship? And the answer is yes. You have autonomy. You have the right to change what you need from a relationship at any given time. Your partners have the right to say, that doesn't work for me, and that could happen. But you always have the right to say, I had consented to seeing you 3 days a week. That doesn't work for me now. I still care about you. I still want to spend time with you, but I now want to spend 1 day a week with you. That is within your prerogative.
Yes, you always get to want what you want. You always get to ask for what you want. And your partner can say yes, no, or counteroffer.
That's right. And in the final analysis, you are the owner of you.
Yeah.
Your partner doesn't get to say to you, I get you 3 days a week, if you're saying, you only get me 1 day a week. You allocate you your way.
And in our feedback this week, I have been going through my emails. The number of unanswered emails in my inbox is now down to, I think, 25. Huzzah. Still working on it. And I found some old voice messages that I'd neglected to play. We did have one this week, but the audio quality was so poor that I had to make a judgment call whether to play it. I thought it would be too hard to hear on a podcast. But I want to thank the person for calling in who talked about listening to Polly Weekly on her way to and from work, and with lamentations of the fact that there wasn't really a Polly community where she was. So thank you.
Indeed. Thanks for coming in. Sorry, I couldn't quite understand and hear, and that was before the compression in the internet. So.
And that was in a nice quiet space.
Yeah.
However, our next bit of feedback is from Aggie, our friend Aggie Says, from the solopoly.net blog, who gave us feedback on writing her own user manual. She said, finally, after years of hearing you prod people, I finally got around to doing this. And I'm so glad I did. I started with your approach, and then I expanded and refined it for myself.
Bravo.
Yeah. She says, I applaud your bravery in posting yours online. while I'm a pretty transparent person, I'm reluctant to do that for such deeply personal information. Call me chicken, bok, bok, bok. No, Aggie, not in any way chicken. If I weren't teaching the course on how to write your own user manual, I would probably not have posted mine online. She says that she uses Evernote for her user manual and said, this is why I think you should recommend it. First off, it's very mobile friendly, so you can write and update and share from the phone. So you meet somebody cool, and you know,
Need a new addition to how
and
to
you're
flirt
like,
with
hey,
me?
I'm Polly, and by the way, here, you know, send it to you right then and there. She says it's easy to share in real time. If somebody wants to see my user manual, if they have Evernote, I can share it with that person directly. And they always have access to the latest version of it. And she says for her, she's always working on it, so it's a moving target. And if they don't use Evernote, she can export in a variety of different ways. She says that her user manual is a folder with separate documents for each of the different topic areas, so it makes it easier to scan and read and a little less overwhelming. I should mention, too, that she's a writer. So my user manual is very short, a lot of bullet points. I suspect hers is longer and much more detailed. But that being said, number 4, she says that she uses numbered lists for each page of her user manual to separate individual points and aids overall comprehension. Wow, this sounds so much more thorough than mine.
Boy, she's definitely got it wired tight, hasn't she? Bang.
And it also allows her to share her pages individually and selectively. So she can share just one page, just one folder. Like if she meets somebody, doesn't want to share everything, she could just share, I guess, the How to Flirt With Me section.
So maybe they can improve on the next date. I love it.
And then she even has an about page and privacy explaining the user manual structure. And it's just, it really sounds incredibly detailed and involved. And I think that's fabulous. And she does bring up the objection that some people bring to having a user manual in general, which is that, oh, that kills the mystery. Or now do I have to do one?
In duplicate.
And she says, look, this lets me decide when and where and who I can share it with.
You know, I love a good detailed user manual, I have to say. It's just, there's no way it ruins the mystery. All it does is inform the next set of questions. There's no way that I'm going to get done with a really good user manual and be like, okay, I have all the information I need to build my mental model of this person. No, there's all kinds of questions inspired by it, all kinds of thoughts. I just think that's really cool. And also, the structure of the manual itself gives you information about the writer. Mm-hmm. What do you know about Aggie now that you know that she has done it this way, that she's organized it this way, that she lays it out this way so she can think about things this way? That in and of itself tells you something. Or what do you know about me and that mine is kind of a slapped-together Google document that I haven't looked at in 2 years? These things tell you about they tell you about the writer not only from the content there, but by the very existence itself and its shape and form.
The shape and form of the user manual. Yeah, exactly. Because we give writing prompts and I give suggestions for 3 or 4 different sections, but many people choose to add their own sections, or they eliminate one section and expand another one. It's really true. And he does like the user manual. He found my user manual before our first date, found it online.
Yep.
And he did come to the date with a set of questions.
I did. It's true.
He's like, I found your user manual. I have more questions. And I'm like, holy shit, what's in my user manual? What did I say?
I also have to say, Aggie, that I love how you've repurposed it. I was just reading today a bit of writing by Jorith, and she called her user manual her me manual. And I love that kind of repurposing. When people take ideas and remake them and adjust them and make them work for them, like we were talking about before with the Conan movies, make the universe yours. I really appreciate when I see people repurpose ideas and make them fit to them. That gives me a lot of joy. Bravo.
Hi, Minx. It's Amy. I am listening to the How to Be a Trans Ally episode, and a thought occurred to me I just wanted to share with you. I kind of heads on with a couple of professors when I was doing my graduate study in school psychology, and I published an article on gender nonconforming children, and just there's a lot of background and history. I learned a lot, and one thing I became really, really interested in that article, writing that article, doing research, was interest used to say hermaphrodite, which is now incredibly politically incorrect, which I don't even think a lot of people know that, but the term is intersex, and it's even more common for someone to be born both sexes, some combination of both sexes, than it is for someone to identify in a way that doesn't concur with their biological sex. And it's just, I don't know, listening to the podcast, and it's been focusing so much on trans, and I love it, and I thought you might be interested just to hear, the same way I was interested, that, people born intersex, actually born both sexes, is even more common and somehow getting no attention and still, very stigmatized and hidden and not discussed. And you have a forum to, I guess, make that a little more public, so I just wanted to throw that out there to you. And good morning. Thank you for being there for my morning. I love you so much.
Thank you for calling in. And the Transgender Ally episode was a couple episodes ago. Again, a little slow on my email. But yeah, we've been hearing the word intersex more and more. And the term hermaphrodite is now generally considered to be a slur, even though it used to be considered sort of technically correct. So yeah, and we are looking at putting together more episodes on trans, intersex individuals and on asexuality too. So stay tuned.
It's time for your Happy Poly Moment of the Week, brought to you by Fubbly Polyamorists everywhere.
And our first of two Happy Poly moments is from Anonymous. I've been dating my boyfriend for about 9 months. He has a long-time live-in partner that he is very serious with. I was friends with my metamor prior to him and I dating. But when her partner / my boyfriend and I started getting more serious, she and I had to feel out what that meant for our friendship as well as our metamorness. Several months ago, she started making additional efforts to reach out to me, and I have responded in kind. We've had some great conversations about polyamory, but we've also started hanging out and talking more as friends. As a result, I feel like our friendship has gotten even better. Our partner's birthday is approaching. And yesterday she sent me this message in regards to the party she's planning. I was wondering if you'd like to be on call for any planning stuff I might need help with. I know that 1, you're great at event planning, 2, you care about mutual partner, and 3, we make a great team. It probably won't be a lot of work. I'm doing most of it and have planned tons of parties before, but maybe a little bit of consultation and miscellaneous things. No pressure to do it, and you decide if you don't want to or can't. That's totally okay. Just let me know.
That is so cool.
That's perfect. I love that she gave her an out, but, extended the outreach, with a little bit of flattery. Always good.
Always good. And, if I was that partner, I would just be in seventh heaven. One of the things that makes me so happy is when my lovers, without me, get together, think about me, talk about me, and do something for me. That just makes me happy.
He does love it when girls talk about him behind his back.
It's true.
He does. She writes, seeing this message put the biggest grin on my face. See, just like you. I was so touched to be thought of and included, and by the nice things she had to say. This truly has to be one of my absolute favorite things about polyamory. The feeling of inclusiveness, and that we're all on the same team, caring about the same people.
Hi, Minx. This is Em, and I just wanted to share my happy poly moment with you. So I just got involved with this girl, and she's awesome, and she had wanted me to come over for a Sunday or breakfast, so I did. She had brought her boyfriend over, and, she was like, hey, I was supposed to make this, and they ended up making something else, and we were all, standing at the counter, and I looked over, and I was like, we're having a metamor breakfast. And we all started laughing, and it was an amazing time. I've been nervous about poly for years, like a couple months since I've been kind of introduced to the subject, and this is such a nice, warm way to realize that metamors aren't as scary as I imagined them to be. So, yeah, I had warm fuzzies, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So, Thank you.
There's a lesson for you. Most of the time, metamors are not nearly as scary as you think. Who could be scary over brunch, I ask?
Not knowing if it's a good brunch. I mean, there's mimosas and stuff, right?
There's mimosas, Bloody Marys, fantastic. Usually some pastries.
Pastries.
Yeah, can be good.
It's hard to be aggressive with a pastry in your hand. It's true.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for today's show. I would like to thank everybody who called in and who has been very patient with their email responses. Special shout out to our Polyweekly Playmates this week for your generous donations that help keep us going even on the tough weeks. And if you have questions, comments, or feedback, I am checking the listener comment line. We are playing those older comments and would love to hear some new ones. 802-505-POLY. Or you can email us, polyweekly@gmail or cunningminx@gmail. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/polyweekly. We're also on Twitter @polyweekly and @cunningminx. Thanks so much for listening, guys. And remember, it's not all about the sex.